I got the job offer on a Wednesday. Senior software architect at Technova, one of the most prestigious tech companies in San Francisco. $150,000 base salary, equity, benefits that would change my life. I'd worked toward this for 10 years. And I got it. I called my husband Marcus to tell him. He was thrilled. Then I heard his mother Diane's voice in the background. "What's she so excited about?" Marcus told her. And I heard Diane say clear as day, "A job like that? She'll have a breakdown. She can barely handle stress. Someone should warn them." I should have paid attention to that comment. Should have recognized it as the threat it was. 2 weeks into my new job, I got called into my boss's office. Laura Chen, the CTO, looked uncomfortable. "Natalie, I received a concerning phone call yesterday from someone claiming to be your therapist." My stomach dropped. "My therapist? A Dr. Diane Morrison. She said she was calling out of concern for your well-being, that you have a history of severe anxiety and depression, that you've had multiple hospitalizations for mental health crises, that taking on a high-stress position like this could trigger a complete breakdown." "I don't have a therapist named Diane Morrison," I said, my voice shaking. "I don't have any therapist, and I've never been hospitalized for mental health issues." "She knew a lot of details about you," Laura said carefully. "Your previous jobs, your marriage." She sounded very professional and concerned. "What did you tell her?" "I told her I couldn't discuss employee matters." "But Natalie, I have to ask, is there any truth to what she said? About your mental health history?" "No, none. Someone is lying to sabotage me." I knew exactly who. Diane. My mother-in-law, who'd been against this job from the start. Who thought I should stay in my lower-paying position because high-powered careers aren't for women with families. Who'd made it clear she thought I was too fragile for leadership. She'd called my boss pretending to be my therapist, lied about my mental health, tried to get me fired 2 weeks into my dream job, and when I confronted her, she smiled and said, "I was just looking out for you, dear. You seem so stressed. I thought your employer should know what they're dealing with." That's when I knew this wasn't going to stop with one phone call. Diane was going to systematically destroy my career unless I stopped her, and stopping her meant burning every bridge with my husband's family. This is the story of how my mother-in-law committed fraud, violated HIPAA by pretending to be a therapist, nearly cost me my job, and faced criminal consequences for her concern. My name is Natalie Chen, and I'm a 32-year-old software architect living in San Francisco. I met my husband, Marcus Williams, when we were both junior developers at a startup 7 years ago. We bonded over debugging code at 2 a.m., over our shared ambition to build something meaningful, over dreams of working at the kind of companies that change industries. "I want to be CTO somewhere someday," I told Marcus on our third date. "I want to build products that matter," Marcus said. "Work at a place like Technova or Google or Tesla." We got each other. We were both driven, both career-focused, both willing to work hard for what we wanted. We got married after 3 years of dating, bought a small house in Oakland, all we could afford in the Bay Area, and kept grinding toward our goals. I met Diane Williams at our engagement dinner. She lived in Sacramento, about 2 hours from the Bay Area, and this was her first trip to meet me. Marcus had warned me that his mother was traditional and opinionated, but meant well. What he didn't tell me was that Diane had very specific ideas about women, careers, and family. Ideas that didn't include her daughter-in-law being a software architect. "So you're a computer programmer," Diane said over dinner, making it sound like I worked at a call center. "Software developer, yes. Working toward architect level. How modern," Diane said with a tight smile. "And you plan to keep working after you're married? Even when you have children?" "Of course," I said. "I love my career." Marcus's father and I had traditional roles, Diane said. I stayed home with Marcus while Richard provided. It worked beautifully. Children need their mothers at home. "Different families make different choices," I said diplomatically. Diane said. That particular sound that conveyed disapproval without saying it directly. Marcus's father, Richard, had died 5 years earlier from a heart attack. Since then, Diane had become increasingly dependent on Marcus, calling him daily, expecting weekly visits, treating him like a surrogate husband rather than an adult son. "She's lonely," Marcus explained when I suggested the weekly visits were excessive. "Dad died suddenly. I'm all she has. She could make friends, join clubs, date, She's not ready for that, and I can't abandon her. She's my mother, red flag. Big red flag. But I loved Marcus, and I told myself we could work through it. Our wedding was small, just immediate family and close friends. Diane wore a beige dress that photographed as white in most pictures. She gave a toast about how she hoped I'd take good care of her son and not let career ambitions interfere with family. She made comments about my dress being a bit revealing for a bride. It had a normal neckline. She asked loudly when we'd give her grandchildren. "Give it time, Mom," Marcus said. "We're focused on careers right now." Diane's expression suggested that was the wrong answer. For the first few years of marriage, things were manageable. Diane lived 2 hours away. We saw her monthly. She made comments about my career. "Still working those long hours? Don't you want to start a family? Marcus, does she even cook for you?" But I ignored them. Then 2 things happened that changed everything. First, I got promoted to senior developer at my startup. Better title, better pay, more responsibility. I was thrilled. Marcus was proud. Diane's reaction? Senior developer? That sounds like even more stress. Natalie, you're going to burn out. Women aren't built for that kind of pressure. "I'm doing fine," I said. "You say that now. But I've read articles. Women in high-stress jobs have breakdowns, get divorced, ruin their health. You should consider stepping back before it's too late." "I'm not stepping back. I just got promoted." Diane looked at Marcus. "You're okay with this? With her working herself to death?" "Mom, Natalie loves her job. She's great at it. This is what she wants." "What she wants now," Diane said ominously. "Wait until the stress catches up with her." The second thing that happened, Diane retired from her administrative assistant job. Suddenly, with no work to occupy her days, she became even more focused on Marcus and me. The phone calls increased, daily, sometimes twice daily. She'd call Marcus at work with emergencies that were never emergencies. She couldn't figure out her TV remote. She needed help moving furniture. She was lonely and needed him to visit. "Your mother called me 3 times today," I told Marcus after a particularly exhausting week. "Asking where you were, why you weren't answering her calls, if you were mad at her." "She worries," Marcus said. "She's using anxiety to control you. That's manipulation. She's my mother, Natalie. She raised me alone after Dad died. I owe her. You don't owe her your entire life. You're allowed to have boundaries." But Marcus couldn't set boundaries with Diane, and Diane knew it. When I started interviewing for architect positions, the next step in my career, the thing I'd been working toward for years, Diane escalated. "An architect position? That's management. Natalie, you're not ready for that kind of responsibility. You're too young, too inexperienced." "I have 8 years of experience," I said. "That's standard for architect level. But the stress, the pressure, you'll crack under it. I've seen it happen to women like you. Women like me? Ambitious women who think they can do everything. They always break eventually." I got 3 interviews. Technova, a major Bay Area company. Innovate Labs, a well-funded startup. Cloud Tech, an established enterprise company. All architect positions. All 140K, 160K. All career-changing opportunities. Diane found out from Marcus. Her response, 3 interviews? She's overreaching. She should stay where she is. She's going to embarrass herself. I nailed all 3 interviews. Got 2 offers. Technova offered 150K base, equity that could be worth hundreds of thousands, full benefits, work with cutting-edge technology. It was everything I wanted. I called Marcus immediately. I got the Technova offer. "I got it! That's amazing!" Marcus said, genuinely excited. "I'm so proud of you." Then I heard Diane's voice. She was at our house. She'd driven down from Sacramento without warning, something she did increasingly often. "What's all the excitement?" Diane asked. Marcus told her. And I heard her response over the phone. "Technova? That's one of the most demanding companies in the tech industry. She'll have a breakdown. She can barely handle stress as it is. Someone should warn them what they're getting into." "Mom, don't start," Marcus said. "I'm serious. A job like that will destroy her. Destroy your marriage. You need to talk her out of accepting." "I'm not talking her out of anything. This is her dream job. Then she's going to have a very rude awakening when reality hits. I should have recognized that as a threat. Should have heard the intention behind it. But I was too excited, too focused on starting my new position, to realize that Diane meant what she said. She was going to make sure I had that rude awakening, even if she had to manufacture it herself. I accepted the Technova offer, gave notice at my startup, spent 2 weeks transitioning my projects and preparing for the new role. I was nervous. This was a big step up, but confident. I'd earned this. I was ready. My first day at Technova was overwhelming in the best way. State-of-the-art offices, brilliant colleagues, complex, interesting problems to solve. My boss Laura Chen, the CTO, was a legend in the industry. I'd be learning from the best. "Welcome to the team," Laura said during our first one-on-one. "We're excited to have you. Your interview was one of the strongest we've seen. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. The work is demanding," Laura warned, "but you have the skills. Just communicate if you need support. We want you to succeed." The first week was intense. Learning the code base, meeting the team, understanding the architecture of systems handling millions of users. But it was exhilarating. This was what I'd worked for. At home, I was exhausted but happy. Marcus was supportive, making dinner on nights I worked late, listening to me talk through technical challenges. Diane called daily. "How's the new job? Are you overwhelmed yet? When are you going to admit it's too much?" "It's challenging but good," I'd say. "You sound tired, stressed." This is exactly what I predicted. "I'm fine." "Diane." "We'll see," she'd say ominously. On my 10th day at Technova, Laura asked me to come to her office. The expression on her face made my stomach drop. "Natalie, I need to discuss something sensitive. I received a phone call yesterday that I'm required to address." "Okay," I said, confused. "Someone called claiming to be your therapist. A Dr. Diane Morrison. She said she was contacting me out of concern for your well-being, given that you'd recently started a high-stress position." My blood ran cold. Diane Morrison. My mother-in-law's name? What exactly did this person say? I asked carefully. "She said you have a documented history of severe anxiety and depression, that you've had multiple hospitalizations for mental health crises, that you've struggled with suicidal ideation in the past. She said taking on an architect position could trigger a complete breakdown, and she was calling to warn us so we could provide appropriate support and monitoring." I felt like I'd been punched. "None of that is true. Not a word. She sounded very professional," Laura said. "She used clinical terminology. She claimed to have been treating you for 5 years. "I don't have a therapist," I said, my voice shaking. "I've never been hospitalized for mental health issues. I don't have a diagnosis of anxiety or depression. Someone is lying to sabotage me." Laura studied me carefully. "Do you know who would do that?" "My mother-in-law. Her name is Diane. She's been against this job from the start. She thinks I'm too fragile for high-level positions." "Your mother-in-law called pretending to be your therapist?" Laura looked shocked. "She threatened to warn you. I didn't think she'd actually do it." Laura was quiet for a moment. "Natalie, I need to be direct. This is a serious accusation. If someone impersonated a medical professional to provide false information about an employee, that's fraud. It's also potentially a HIPAA violation, even though you don't actually have a therapist. We take this seriously, I understand. What do you need from me?" "First, a statement in writing that the information provided was false. Second, documentation that you don't have the mental health history claimed. Third, your permission to report this to our legal department and potentially law enforcement." "You have all of that," I said immediately. "I want this person prosecuted." I left Laura's office shaking with rage and drove straight home. Marcus was working remotely that day. When I walked in, he looked up from his laptop with a smile that faded when he saw my face. "What's wrong?" "Your mother called my boss," I said, my voice cold. "Pretending to be my therapist. Told her I have severe mental health issues and a history of hospitalizations. Tried to get me fired 2 weeks into my new job." Marcus went pale. "What? Mom wouldn't do that. Her name is Diane Morrison. The therapist who called was named Diane Morrison. Your mother's full name. That's a coincidence. She told you she was going to warn them. I heard her say it. Someone should warn them what they're getting into. She meant it literally." Marcus pulled out his phone and called his mother. "Put it on speaker. Marcus, darling. How are you? Mom, did you call Natalie's employer?" Brief pause. Then, "I called to express some concerns, yes. As someone who cares about Natalie's well-being, you pretended to be her therapist, I said loudly. You claimed I have mental health issues. You lied to my boss. I didn't lie, Diane said calmly. You do have mental health issues. Anyone can see that. The stress you're under, the way you work yourself to exhaustion, those are signs of underlying problems. I don't have a therapist, I said. You can't be my therapist because I don't have one. You committed fraud. I was acting out of concern. Someone needed to make them aware of what they're dealing with. You're not stable enough for that position. You tried to get me fired. I tried to help, Diane said, her voice hardening. You're too proud to see that you're in over your head. Someone has to protect you from yourself. Mom, Marcus said, his voice strained. You can't call someone's employer and lie about them. That's illegal. I didn't lie. I expressed legitimate concerns based on my observations. You claimed to be her therapist. Marcus shouted. You impersonated a medical professional. That's fraud. That's possibly a HIPAA violation. Don't you dare speak to me that way, Diane said, her voice going cold. I'm your mother. I was trying to help your wife before she has a complete breakdown and destroys your marriage. Get out, I said to Marcus. Tell her to never contact me again. Never contact my employer, never interfere with my career. Or I'm filing a police report. You wouldn't dare, Diane said. I'm family. Watch me, I said, and ended the call. Marcus looked devastated. Natalie, she's my mother. She's not well. This isn't normal behavior. No, it's not. It's criminal behavior. She committed fraud. She tried to sabotage my career out of spite. Out of concern, don't, I said sharply. Don't you dare defend this. Your mother called my boss, lied about my mental health, tried to get me fired. And you're making excuses for her. I'm not making excuses. She's my mother. She's obviously struggling with something. She needs help. She needs consequences, I said. I'm calling the police tomorrow. Natalie, please. Let me talk to her first. Let me make her understand how serious this is. If we get police involved, she could be arrested. Good, I said coldly. Maybe that will teach her not to sabotage people's careers. But Marcus begged, pleaded, promised he'd make Diane understand. Make her apologize, ensure she never did anything like this again. Give me 1 week, Marcus said. Let me try to handle this within the family first. If she doesn't take it seriously, we'll go to the police. Okay, I agreed. 1 week. But I documented everything. Saved the voicemail Laura forwarded where Dr. Diane Morrison had left a callback number, Diane's cell phone. Recorded a statement with HR about the false information provided. Got everything in writing. Marcus drove to Sacramento that evening to confront Diane in person. He came back after midnight looking exhausted. How'd it go? I asked. She doesn't see what she did wrong, Marcus said quietly. She keeps insisting she was expressing concerns and trying to help. She thinks you're overreacting. She committed fraud. I know. I told her that. She says you're being vindictive, that you're trying to turn me against her. I don't need to turn you against her. She did that herself by sabotaging my career. She wants to apologize to you. In person. No, I said flatly. I don't want to see her. I don't want to hear from her. I want her to stay away from me and my job. She's my mother, Natalie. We can't just cut her off. She tried to get me fired, I shouted. 2 weeks into my dream job. Do you understand what that could have done to my career, to my reputation? If Laura had believed her, I'd be marked as unstable, unmarketable, destroyed. Marcus had no response to that. The next day, I met with Technova's legal department, explained the situation, provided all documentation. Ms. Chen, this is serious, the general counsel said. Impersonating a medical professional is a crime in California. It's fraud. It's potentially a HIPAA violation. And it's definitely tortious interference. Your mother-in-law deliberately tried to harm your employment. Can the company press charges? We can report it to police. Whether they prosecute is up to the DA. But you can also file a civil lawsuit for damages, emotional distress, potential harm to your career and reputation. I want to do both. Technova filed a police report that afternoon. Fraud, impersonation of a medical professional, tortious interference with employment. The police took it seriously. This wasn't just family drama. It was a crime that could have destroyed my career. 2 days later, 2 police officers showed up at Diane's house in Sacramento. Marcus got a panicked call. They're saying I committed fraud. They're threatening to arrest me. Marcus, you have to fix this. Mom, I told you this was serious. Natalie warned you she'd file a police report. But I'm your mother. You're supposed to protect me. I tried to protect you by telling you to stop. You didn't listen. The police didn't arrest Diane immediately. They gathered evidence first. Confirmed that Dr. Diane Morrison, who'd called Technova, had used Diane's cell phone. Verified that no therapist by that name was licensed in California. Documented the false claims made about my mental health. Then they charged her. Fraud, impersonation, criminal interference with employment. Marcus got the call from the Sacramento Police Department. Your mother has been charged with felony fraud. She'll be arraigned next week. Marcus came home looking like he'd aged 10 years. They charged her. My mother is facing felony charges. Good, I said. How can you say that? She's my mother. She tried to destroy my career. She called my boss and lied about me having mental breakdowns. Why are you more concerned about her than about what she did to me? Because she's my mother. Marcus shouted. She raised me. She's all I have left of my family. And I'm your wife, I said. Who you're supposed to protect. But you're more worried about your mother facing consequences for her crimes than you are about her trying to sabotage me. That's when I knew. This marriage was in serious trouble. The arraignment was set. For 2 weeks later, Diane hired a criminal defense attorney. Expensive, paid for with money from Richard's life insurance. She pleaded not guilty, claimed she'd been expressing legitimate concerns, and didn't realize it was illegal to contact an employer. Your Honor, my client is a 64-year-old retired woman with no criminal history, Diane's attorney argued. She made an error in judgment out of genuine concern for her daughter-in-law's well-being. She had no criminal intent. The prosecutor wasn't buying it. The defendant impersonated a medical professional. Used clinical terminology to make false claims sound credible. Provided specific false information about hospitalizations and suicidal ideation. This was not a concerned mother-in-law calling to chat. This was a calculated attempt to destroy the victim's career. The judge set bail at $25,000. Diane paid it immediately, or rather, Marcus paid it with money from their joint account. My money. He'd used our money to bail out the woman who tried to get me fired. When I found out, I opened a separate bank account and moved half our savings into it. You bailed her out with our money? I said, without asking me. She's my mother. I couldn't let her sit in jail. She tried to destroy my career. I know, and that was wrong. But she's still my mother. I have to help her. You have to choose, I said quietly. Your mother or your wife? Because I can't stay married to someone who defends my saboteur. Don't make me choose, Marcus begged. Please. I love you both. She doesn't love me, I said. She tried to destroy me. And you keep making excuses for that. I moved out that night, went to stay with my friend Keiko, a colleague from my previous job. I couldn't be in that house with Marcus, couldn't look at him knowing he'd chosen his mother over me. At work, Laura was supportive. Take whatever time you need. This is an incredibly difficult situation. For what it's worth, we believe you completely. And we're pursuing this legally because what was done to you was unconscionable. The case moved forward. Diane's attorney tried to get charges reduced to a misdemeanor. The DA refused. This was felony fraud with clear intent to harm. Then Diane's attorney filed a motion claiming I'd provoked the incident. That I'd been hostile to Diane, excluded her from family events, poisoned Marcus against her. That her phone call was a desperate attempt to save her son's marriage from my unstable behavior. They're victim-blaming, Technova's attorney told me. Classic defense strategy. Make the victim look bad so the jury sympathizes with the defendant. Will it work? Not with the evidence we have, but it will be ugly. They're going to attack your character, your career choices, your marriage. Be prepared. The trial was set for 3 months out. During that time, Diane launched a full campaign to paint herself as the victim. She gave an interview to a Sacramento news station. I was concerned about my daughter-in-law's mental health. She'd been showing signs of stress, working excessive hours, neglecting my son. I called her employer to express concerns. I never claimed to be a therapist. That's a misunderstanding. The news segment ran with the headline, "Local woman faces felony charges for calling daughter-in-law's employer." The comments were split. Half sympathized with Diane. Just a concerned mother trying to help. They're criminalizing family concern. This poor woman is being persecuted for caring. The other half saw through it. She impersonated a therapist. This isn't concern. It's sabotage. She tried to get her DIL fired. Marcus watched the interview at Diane's house. He'd been spending most evenings there, supporting her through the ordeal. "You need to drop the charges," Marcus told me when he finally came home. "This is destroying my mother. She's become a pariah in her community. People are calling her a criminal." "She is a criminal," I said. "She committed fraud." She made a mistake out of concern. "Stop calling it concern," I shouted. "It was sabotage. Deliberate, calculated sabotage. She wanted me to fail so I'd quit my job and be the stay-at-home daughter-in-law she wanted." "That's not fair. She told you I'd have a breakdown." "She said someone should warn my employer. She meant it." Marcus looked defeated. "What do you want me to do? She's my mother. I can't abandon her. I want you to acknowledge what she did was wrong. Not an error in judgment, not concern gone too far. Wrong, criminal, unforgivable. She's family. And I'm your wife," I said. Or I was. "I don't think we can stay married through this. Natalie, please. You chose her," I said simply. "The moment she was charged, you chose her. Bailed her out with our money. Defended her actions. Spent every evening at her house supporting her. You never once asked how I was doing, how it felt to have someone try to destroy my career. You just worried about your mother's feelings. Because you're strong," Marcus said. "You're handling this. She's falling apart." "I'm not handling it," I yelled. "I'm dying inside. I go to work every day wondering if my colleagues think I'm unstable. If my boss really trusts me, or if she's watching for signs of the breakdown your mother invented. I jump every time my phone rings, terrified it's another sabotage attempt. I can't sleep. I can't focus. And you didn't notice because you were too busy comforting the woman who did this to me." Marcus had no answer to that. I filed for divorce the next day. Marcus was served papers at his office. He called me immediately. "Divorce? You're divorcing me over this?" "I'm divorcing you because you chose your mother over me. Because you defended her crimes. Because you used our money to bail out my abuser. She's not your abuser. She tried to destroy my career," I screamed. "That is abuse!" "And you kept making excuses for it." The divorce proceedings were filed, but they'd have to wait. The criminal trial came first. Pre-trial motions revealed more of Diane's defense strategy. Her attorney submitted evidence that I worked excessive hours and prioritized career over family, submitted Marcus's text messages, where he'd complained to his mother about me working late. "Your Honor, this shows the defendant had legitimate concerns about Ms. Chen's well-being and the state of the marriage. Her phone call was not malicious. It was a mother trying to intervene in a deteriorating situation." "Your Honor," the prosecutor countered, "the defendant's concerns, legitimate or not, did not give her the right to impersonate a medical professional and provide false information about Ms. Chen's mental health. She could have talked to her son. She could have talked to Ms. Chen. Instead, she deliberately tried to sabotage Ms. Chen's employment by inventing a psychiatric history. During discovery, something significant was revealed. This wasn't the first time Diane had done something like this. Technova's legal team, digging into Diane's background, found that she'd called Marcus's first serious girlfriend's employer 10 years ago. Made similar claims about the girlfriend being unstable and not suitable for the position. That girlfriend had broken up with Marcus shortly after, and he'd never known his mother was behind it. "She has a pattern," the prosecutor told me. "She sabotages women she sees as competition for her son's attention. You're not the first victim, just the first one to press charges." That information changed everything. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a long-term pattern of manipulation and control. When Marcus found out, he was devastated. "She did this before? To Claire?" "According to Claire's statement, yes. Your mother called her boss, claimed Claire had substance abuse issues. Claire lost her job and blamed herself. That's part of why your relationship ended. She was unemployed, depressed, thought she'd failed." Marcus looked sick. "Mom destroyed my relationship with Claire and let me believe Claire just gave up on us? Your mother has been controlling your relationships for a decade," I said. "I'm just the first one who fought back." The trial began on a cold November morning. The courtroom was packed. This case had gotten media attention, and there were reporters present. Diane sat at the defense table looking like a bereaved grandmother. Conservative dress, minimal makeup, tissues in hand. Playing the victim perfectly, the prosecution laid out their case methodically. Played the voicemail where Dr. Diane Morrison called Technova's HR department. Showed phone records proving it came from Diane's cell phone. Presented evidence that no therapist by that name was licensed in California. The defendant called Ms. Chen's employer, the prosecutor said in opening statements. She claimed to be a therapist named Dr. Diane Morrison, using her own first and last name. She provided detailed false information about Ms. Chen's mental health, including claims of hospitalizations that never happened and diagnoses that don't exist. She did this knowing it could cost Ms. Chen her job. This was not concern. This was sabotage. Diane's attorney painted a different picture. Diane Williams is a devoted mother who was genuinely worried about her daughter-in-law's well-being. She saw signs of stress, burnout, a marriage in trouble. She reached out to Ms. Chen's employer to express concerns. Did she make an error in how she identified herself? Perhaps. But her intent was to help, not harm. The prosecution called me as their first witness. I testified about the job offer, about Diane's opposition to it, about her threat that someone should warn them. Did you ever give the defendant permission to contact your employer? The prosecutor asked. No, never. Did you ever tell the defendant you had mental health issues? No, I don't have mental health issues. I've never been hospitalized, never been diagnosed with anything she claimed. Did you have any relationship with a therapist named Diane Morrison? No, that person doesn't exist. The defendant made that up. Under cross-examination, Diane's attorney tried to make me look unstable. You work long hours, don't you? Standard hours for my position. 60 hours a week, sometimes during critical projects. But I'm salaried. That's normal in tech. And your husband complained to his mother about your work schedule? My husband's communication with his mother is his business. But he did express concerns about your well-being? He mentioned I worked hard. That's not the same as having mental health crises. You're a very ambitious woman, aren't you, Ms. Chen? I have career goals, yes. More ambitious than concerned about your marriage? Objection, the prosecutor said. Relevance? Sustained, the judge said. Counsel, Ms. Chen's ambition is not on trial. The prosecution called Laura Chen next. She testified about the phone call, about the specific false claims made. The caller claimed to be Ms. Chen's therapist. She used clinical terminology. She provided specific information. Hospitalizations, suicidal ideation, anxiety diagnoses. She sounded professional and credible. That's why I took it seriously enough to discuss with Ms. Chen. What was your intention in discussing this with Ms. Chen? To verify the information and ensure we were providing appropriate support. Our company takes mental health seriously. If an employee was struggling, we wanted to help. And when Ms. Chen told you the information was false? I believed her immediately. And I was appalled that someone would make such claims to sabotage an employee. Under cross-examination, Diane's attorney tried to suggest Laura was biased. You hired Ms. Chen. Her failure would reflect poorly on your judgment, wouldn't it? Ms. Chen hasn't failed, Laura said firmly. She's an excellent architect, one of our strongest hires this year. The prosecution also called Marcus's ex-girlfriend Claire. She testified tearfully about receiving a similar call at her employer years ago. Someone claiming Toby, a family friend, called my boss and said I had a drug problem. I didn't. I'd never done drugs. But my boss started treating me differently. Eventually, I was let go during a restructuring. I blamed myself for years. I never knew it was Marcus's mother until the police contacted me for this case. Did you tell Marcus about losing your job? Yes. He was supportive, but our relationship fell apart after that. I was depressed, unemployed. I thought I'd failed. I broke up with him because I felt like I was dragging him down. Did you ever suspect his mother was involved? No, never. She seemed so concerned, so caring. I thought she was trying to help me through a difficult time. I had no idea she'd created that difficult time. The defense called Diane to testify. She took the stand looking fragile and sad. Mrs. Williams, did you call Technova's HR department? Her attorney asked. Yes, I was concerned about Natalie. She seemed so stressed, so overwhelmed. I thought her employer should know she was struggling. Did you claim to be her therapist? I may have said I was calling on her behalf as someone concerned about her mental health, but I never intended to impersonate a medical professional. Yet you used the title doctor and your own last name. I was flustered. I wanted them to take me seriously. I wasn't thinking clearly. Under cross-examination, the prosecutor destroyed her testimony. Mrs. Williams, you called yourself Dr. Diane Morrison, correct? I may have. And Morrison is your maiden name? Yes. So you chose to use your maiden name rather than Williams. Why? I don't know. I was nervous. Or because you knew if you used Williams, they might realize you were Ms. Chen's mother-in-law and not a medical professional? No, You claimed Ms. Chen had been hospitalized multiple times. Where were these hospitalizations? I don't remember specific facilities because they never happened. You made them up? I thought she had been hospitalized. Based on what evidence? She seemed so stressed. Stress is not hospitalization. You fabricated medical history to damage her career. I was trying to help by lying to her employer, by inventing psychiatric diagnoses. Mrs. Williams, you've done this before, haven't you? To your son's previous girlfriend? That was different. How was it different? You called another woman's employer with false information. You sabotaged another relationship when a woman got too close to your son. This is a pattern of behavior, isn't it? Diane started crying. I love my son. I only want what's best for him. And you decide what's best by destroying the careers of women he loves? Objection. Diane's attorney stood. Argumentative. Withdrawn, the prosecutor said. No further questions. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty. Guilty on all counts: fraud, criminal impersonation, interference with employment. Diane collapsed in her chair, sobbing. Marcus, sitting in the gallery, looked gutted. Sentencing was set for 3 weeks later. The weeks between verdict and sentencing were the darkest of my life. I'd won in court. Diane had been convicted, would face consequences. But the victory felt hollow. My marriage was ending. Marcus had sat in that courtroom and watched his mother be convicted, and he still couldn't accept what she'd done. She's sick, he told me after the verdict. She needs therapy, not prison. She needs consequences, I said. She's been doing this for years. To me, to Claire, probably to others. She destroys women who get close to you, and you've been enabling it. I didn't know. Because you didn't want to know. She's been controlling your life since your father died, and you let her because it was easier than setting boundaries. She's my mother. She's alone. She needs me. And I was your wife. I needed you, but you chose her. The divorce was proceeding. We were splitting assets, negotiating terms. Marcus wanted to fight me on the house he'd been paying the mortgage while I was staying with Keiko. But his attorney advised him not to contest too much. Your wife has grounds for a fault divorce, based on your mother's actions and your defense of them, his attorney explained. If she pushes, she could claim extreme emotional distress caused by your family. You could end up with less. So Marcus agreed to sell the house, split everything 50-50. We'd been married 7 years. Everything we'd built together was being divided and distributed. At work, things were complicated. Laura and the team were supportive, but I could feel the awkwardness. Everyone knew about the trial. Some had testified. Others had read about it in the news. How are you holding up? Laura asked during a one-on-one. Honestly, not great. My marriage is ending. My mother-in-law is going to prison. And I keep wondering if people here think I'm actually unstable. No one thinks that, Laura said firmly. Everyone who's worked with you knows you're brilliant, stable, and professional. What was done to you was unconscionable. If anything, we admire how you've handled it. I don't feel like I've handled it well. I feel like I'm barely holding together. You came to work every day during a criminal trial involving your family. You delivered excellent work under incredible stress. That's not barely holding together. That's extraordinary resilience. But I didn't feel resilient. I felt broken. I'd gotten my dream job, and it had cost me my marriage. My mother-in-law was going to prison, and somehow I felt guilty about that even though she'd earned it. I was living with a friend at 32, starting over completely. You did the right thing, Keiko told me over wine one night. Pressing charges, divorcing Marcus, protecting your career. All of it. Then why do I feel so guilty? Because society tells women to be accommodating, to forgive. to prioritize family harmony over our own well-being. But your mother-in-law committed a crime against you. Your husband defended that crime. You're allowed to demand consequences. I destroyed Marcus's family. No, Diane destroyed her own family by being unable to let her adult son have a life. Marcus destroyed his marriage by choosing his mother over his wife. You just refused to be a victim. That's not destruction. That's self-preservation. The day before sentencing, Marcus called me. "Can we meet, please? Just to talk." I agreed to meet at a neutral location, a coffee shop halfway between our house and Keiko's apartment. Marcus looked terrible. He'd lost weight, had dark circles under his eyes, looked 10 years older than the man I'd married. "I'm sorry," he said as soon as I sat down. "For all of it. For not believing you at first. For defending my mother. For choosing her over you. I was wrong. Thank you for saying that. I've been going to therapy since the verdict, trying to understand how I let this happen. How I let my mother control my life for so long. What has your therapist said? That my father's death was traumatic. That I took on the role of man of the family at 23. That my mother exploited that, made herself dependent on me emotionally in unhealthy ways. That I've been enabling her manipulation because I felt guilty about wanting my own life." That sounds accurate. "I should have protected you," Marcus said, his voice breaking. "From her. From all of it. You're my wife. You were my wife, and I let my mother sabotage you. I'm so sorry. I appreciate that. But it doesn't change anything. The damage is done. I know. I'm not asking you to take me back. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what she did, what I enabled, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure I never let anyone control me like that again." "I hope you succeed," I said genuinely. "You deserve to be free of her manipulation. So do you. And I'm sorry I made your freedom so expensive." We sat in silence for a while, mourning the marriage we'd had and the future we wouldn't share. "What will you do after sentencing?" I asked. "I don't know. Stay in the Bay Area, probably. Keep my job. Figure out how to have a relationship with my mother that has actual boundaries." "What about you?" "Same. Stay at Technova. Prove that I belong there. Find a place of my own. Start over. You'll be great," Marcus said. "You always were the stronger one." The sentencing hearing was packed. Media, court observers, people from both sides. Diane sat at the defense table looking small and defeated. Her attorney made an impassioned plea for leniency. "Your Honor, my client is a 64-year-old first-time offender. She made a terrible mistake out of misguided concern. She's lost her relationship with her son. She's become a social pariah. She's suffered enough. We ask for probation and community service." The prosecutor was less sympathetic. "Your Honor, the defendant committed premeditated fraud with intent to destroy the victim's career. This wasn't an isolated incident. She has a history of sabotaging women who get close to her son. She showed no remorse throughout this trial, maintaining that she was helping. She needs to face real consequences to understand the severity of her actions." Then the judge asked if I wanted to make a victim impact statement. I did. I stood at the podium and looked at Diane. For 2 weeks, I lived in fear of losing my dream job. I questioned my own competence. I wondered if my boss believed your lies. I couldn't focus at work because I was terrified of making mistakes that would confirm your false claims. You didn't just try to get me fired. You tried to make me believe I was unstable, that I couldn't handle the career I'd worked a decade to achieve. Diane wouldn't look at me. You did this because you couldn't accept that your son had a life separate from you. Because you saw me as competition rather than family. Because you needed to control him so badly that you were willing to destroy anyone who threatened that control. You're not a concerned mother. You're a manipulator who uses maternal love as a weapon. I sat down. The judge took a moment before speaking. Mrs. Williams, what you did was not concern. It was sabotage. You deliberately impersonated a medical professional to provide false information designed to cost the victim her employment. This was calculated, premeditated, and part of a pattern of behavior. The court sentences you to 18 months in county jail, 3 years probation upon release, mandatory psychiatric treatment, and restitution of $25,000 to the victim for damages. Diane burst into tears. Marcus in the gallery put his head in his hands. 18 months. Diane would be in jail for 1.5 years. As they led her away, she looked at Marcus. "Please don't abandon me. I'm still your mother." Marcus didn't respond. After sentencing, Marcus and I stood outside the courthouse. Media swarmed, asking questions. We both declined to comment and walked to our separate cars. But before we parted, Marcus said, "I'm not visiting her. In jail. I'm done enabling this." "Good," I said. "That's healthy." "She'll be furious. She'll say I'm abandoning her when she needs me most." "You're not abandoning her. You're setting boundaries. There's a difference. Will you—" Marcus hesitated. "Will you ever be able to forgive me? Not to get back together, just for peace." I thought about it. Maybe eventually, but not yet. Right now, every time I think about you, I remember you bailing her out with our money, defending her crimes, choosing her over me. That's going to take time to forgive. I understand. Take all the time you need. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. We sold the house, split the assets, went our separate ways. Marcus moved to San Jose for a job change. I bought a small condo in Oakland with my half of the house sale. Life slowly stabilized. Work at Technova was going well. I'd been there 9 months and had proven myself thoroughly. Laura had promoted me to lead architect with a team under me. The career Diane had tried to destroy was flourishing, but I had to deal with one more thing: Diane's eventual release. 18 months in jail meant she'd be out in a year and a half. And while she was on probation with a no-contact order, I knew restraining orders were just paper. If Diane wanted to retaliate, she'd find a way. "You're catastrophizing," my therapist, my actual therapist, Dr. Sarah Kim, said during a session. "Diane is in jail. She's facing consequences. You're safe. But what happens when she gets out? She'll blame me for her conviction, for Marcus cutting contact, for everything. You'll deal with that if and when it happens. Right now, focus on building your life without her shadow over it." Dr. Kim was right. I needed to stop waiting for the other shoe to drop and start actually living. I started dating again, cautiously. Went on apps, met people, had some decent dates and some terrible ones. Nothing serious, but it felt good to put myself out there. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my marriage. People I'd lost touch with because Marcus and I had been so focused on our careers and dealing with Diane. I invested in my career, taking on high-profile projects, building my reputation in the industry, published some technical articles, spoke at a conference, became someone known in my field. And slowly, very slowly, I started to feel like myself again. Not Marcus's wife, not Diane's victim, just Natalie, software architect, survivor, person rebuilding her life. 6 months after sentencing, I got a letter forwarded through Technova's legal department. From Diane, from jail. I almost didn't read it. But curiosity won. "Dear Natalie, I'm writing this letter after months of court-mandated therapy. My therapist suggested I might benefit from trying to explain myself to you, even if you never respond. I was wrong. About everything. About calling your employer. About the lies I told. About trying to sabotage your career. I was wrong. My therapist helped me understand that after Richard died, I made Marcus my entire world. He became my purpose, my identity. And when you came into his life, I saw you as a threat. Someone taking him away from me. That doesn't excuse what I did. Nothing excuses it, but it's the reason. I was so desperate to keep Marcus that I was willing to destroy anyone who got close to him. I did it to Claire. I did it to you. I would have done it to anyone he loved more than me. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm just asking you to know that I see now what I did. How wrong it was. How much harm I caused. You didn't ruin my life. I ruined it myself. By being unable to let my son grow up and have his own life. By needing to control everything. By choosing manipulation over honesty. I'm sorry. For all of it. For trying to destroy your career. For the lies. For making you question yourself. You didn't deserve any of it. Diane, I read the letter 3 times. It sounded sincere. But Diane was manipulative. She'd proven that. This could be another attempt to control the narrative. To paint herself as reformed, so I'd advocate for her early release or reduced probation. I showed the letter to Dr. Kim. "What do you think? Is it genuine?" "It might be," Dr. Kim said. "People can change, especially when facing real consequences. Diane's in jail, in mandatory therapy, and has lost her son's daily presence in her life. That's significant motivation for self-reflection. So should I respond? Do you want to? I thought about it. No, not really. Even if she's sincere, I don't want her in my life in any capacity. Not even through letters. That's a valid choice. You're allowed to accept someone's apology and still maintain boundaries. I didn't respond to the letter, but I kept it, as evidence that Diane had finally acknowledged what she'd done. 3 months later, Marcus called. We hadn't spoken since the divorce finalized. I wanted you to know, I visited my mother in jail. Oh, how did that go? She's different, smaller, less defiant. She's actually been going to therapy, working on herself. She told me about the letter she sent you. I didn't respond. She didn't expect you to. She just wanted you to know she understood what she did. Do you believe her? That she's changed? I don't know, Marcus admitted. Maybe, but I'm not ready to have her fully back in my life. I told her that. When she gets out, she'll be on probation and in therapy. If she does the work, really does it, maybe we can rebuild something. But it won't be what it was. I won't let her control me anymore. I'm glad you're setting boundaries. I learned from the best, Marcus said, and I could hear the sad smile in his voice. You set boundaries with her when I wouldn't. You protected yourself when I didn't protect you. I'm sorry it took losing you for me to learn that lesson. I'm sorry, too, for how it all turned out. Are you happy? Now? Getting there, I said honestly. Some days are better than others. But yeah, I'm getting there. Good. You deserve to be happy. After we hung up, I thought about happiness. About what it meant to me now. It wasn't the big house with Marcus or the perfect marriage I'd imagined. It was smaller, quieter. My condo, my career, my independence, my freedom from Diane's manipulation. It was enough. More than enough. 2 years after Diane's conviction, my life looks completely different from what I'd imagined at 30. I'm 34 now. Senior lead architect at Technova, promoted again 6 months ago. I manage a team of 12 brilliant engineers. I make $180,000 a year plus equity that's actually valuable. Technova went public last year. I bought a larger condo in Berkeley with my own money, no shared mortgage, no compromise. I'm dating someone, Kevin, a product manager I met at a tech conference. He's kind, supportive, and most importantly, has healthy boundaries with his family. His mother likes me. It's refreshingly normal. Marcus is doing well too, from what I hear through mutual friends. He's engaged to someone named Jennifer. They're taking it slow, and he's apparently insisted his mother meet Jennifer only in group settings with clear time limits. He's maintaining boundaries. Diane got out of jail 4 months ago. She's in Sacramento, living in a small apartment, working retail part-time, attending court-mandated therapy twice a week, and complying with 3 years of probation. She's not allowed to contact me. The restraining order is permanent. According to Marcus, we talk occasionally. Friendly but distant. Diane is still in therapy voluntarily, beyond what probation requires. She's acknowledged that she has control issues and unhealthy attachment patterns. She's working on them. I hope that's true. Not for my sake. Diane will never be part of my life again. But for Marcus's sake. He deserves a mother who can be happy for his happiness, not one who sabotages anyone who gets close to him. Sometimes people ask me if I regret pressing charges. If I think sending Diane to jail was too harsh. No, not even slightly. Diane didn't make a mistake. She didn't have a momentary lapse in judgment. She committed premeditated fraud designed to destroy my career, and she'd done it before to another woman. She would have kept doing it to every woman Marcus ever loved. Someone had to stop her. I was the first person with the resources, knowledge, and determination to do it. You probably saved Jennifer, Keiko said recently. If Diane had gotten away with what she did to you, she would have done it to Marcus's next girlfriend too. I hadn't thought about it that way. You set a precedent. You showed Diane that sabotaging her son's partners has real consequences. That's why she's actually in therapy now, because you held her accountable. I think about that sometimes, about how I almost didn't press charges. Marcus had begged me not to, had said it would destroy his family, had made me feel guilty for even considering it. But I'm glad I did it, because what Diane did wasn't just wrong, it was criminal. And sometimes, criminal behavior requires criminal consequences. At work, the incident has become part of my story. Not in a bad way, in a look how much she overcame way. New hires sometimes hear about the architect whose MIL tried to sabotage her and are impressed that I kept going. How did you handle it? A new team member asked recently. How did you come to work every day knowing your boss had received that phone call? I documented everything, I said. I had evidence that the claims were false. I had witnesses. I had the legal system on my side. And I had confidence in my own abilities. I knew I was good at my job. One lie from my mother-in-law wasn't going to change that. That's badass. It felt more like survival at the time. But yeah, looking back, I'm proud of how I handled it. I still have the nanny cam footage from my life. Well, not literally, but metaphorically. I learned to document everything, to keep evidence, to trust my own reality, even when people gaslight me. Those are hard-won lessons. I wouldn't have learned them if Diane hadn't forced me to. Last month, Technova had a diversity panel where I spoke about being a woman in tech. Someone asked about work-life balance and whether women can have it all. I don't know about having it all, I said. But I know I can have a career I love and a life I'm proud of. I've had people try to sabotage that. Tell me I was too ambitious, too focused on work, not suitable for high-pressure positions. But I'm still here, still succeeding, still proving that women belong in leadership. The applause felt good, validating, a reminder that I'd won, not just in court, but in life. Sometimes late at night when I can't sleep, I think about that first phone call from Laura, about hearing that someone claiming to be my therapist had called my employer, about the fear, the confusion, the realization that my mother-in-law was trying to destroy me, and I think about how easily it could have worked. If I'd been less confident, if I'd had less evidence, if Technova had been less supportive, if I'd given up instead of fighting back. But I didn't give up, I fought, and I won. Diane took 18 months from me, the time I spent dealing with criminal proceedings, divorce, rebuilding my life. But she also gave me something, strength I didn't know I had, confidence in my own judgment, knowledge that I can survive even when people I should trust betray me. I'm not grateful for what happened. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but I'm grateful for who I became because of it. Last week, I got a message on LinkedIn from Claire, Marcus's ex-girlfriend, the one Diane had sabotaged years ago. We testified at the same trial but hadn't stayed in touch. Hey, Natalie, I just wanted to say thank you for pressing charges, for not letting Diane get away with it. I blamed myself for years for losing that job, for my relationship with Marcus falling apart. I thought I was weak. Finding out it was his mother's sabotage and seeing her face actual consequences gave me closure I didn't know I needed. You're a badass. Keep thriving, I responded. You're not weak. You were sabotaged by someone who should have supported you. I'm glad my case gave you closure. Keep thriving yourself. That exchange reminded me, this wasn't just about me. Diane had hurt multiple women, destroyed relationships, damaged careers, and until I pressed charges, she'd faced no consequences. I don't regret being the one who finally held her accountable. My life now is quieter than it was 2 years ago, but better. No drama, no manipulation, no mother-in-law sabotaging my career, just me, my work, my friends, my relationship with Kevin, my peaceful condo in Berkeley. This is what winning looks like, not the big dramatic moment in court. This, the life I built afterward. The career that's flourishing, the peace of mind that comes from not having toxic people in my orbit. Diane tried to destroy my dream job by pretending to be my therapist. Instead, she destroyed her own life through her own actions, and I'm still here, still thriving, still proving that women who are told they're too ambitious or can't handle the pressure are usually being sabotaged by people who feel threatened by their success. To anyone dealing with something similar, document everything. Trust your reality. Don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking their abuse is concern. And if necessary, press charges. The legal system isn't perfect, but sometimes it's the only thing standing between you and someone determined to destroy you. I survived Diane's sabotage. I prosecuted her crimes. I rebuilt my life. And 2 years later, I'm happier than I've ever been. That's the real revenge, living well.